Hi, I'm Keith Bilous, and this is Live in the Lab. All right. A little bit of weirdness in front of the camera there for anybody who's watching. So I'm like, hey, where's the button? Where's the button? I can't get it going. How did you go viral on TikTok? You were on America's Got Talent. How much did you get paid to be on AGT? Oh, you didn't get paid. Keith and Steve here in Live in the Lab.
You're a great interviewer. I love it.
48 miles, 48 hours. Not just, you ain't seen nothing yet. I hit 50 last time, and I'm like, yeah, things are a little different than they were 10 years ago. So trust me, things are to keep. You have no time for the BS that much of society seems to put on the table. Why is that? Like, what you're talking about is real right now. There's just no bullshit here, but it's just real. We brought you in with some Marley. I said, Joseph, let's talk music for a second. You said, well, Keith, oldies, 60s, 70s, and 80s. I've never talked to a sir before. Why are you a sir? In many ways, we're the same story. I came from nothing. You came from nothing. I think the old saying goes that if you want a trophy, you climb Everest. If you want respect, you climb K2. I've built an AI myself, and it's pretty fascinating when you can have a conversation with yourself with your own knowledge. Have you done that before? Why are we rushing to make these tools if they're all they're going to do is hurt humanity? Does the world need an Oppenheimer moment with AI?
What a fun show.
Hey, what's going on, nation? What is going on, Business Athlete Nation? Hey, there's the red cup. Oh, forgot I got 12 seconds to hook you. We got a Firewalker today. Yeah, Tony Robbins, Firewalking, Dave Albin. What more is there to tell you? So if you ever wanted to firewalk, you're like, firewalk? What? Firewalk? Yeah, you know, fire. Stuff that burns you. As Dave would say, is non-negotiable. You can't negotiate with fire. Nope, can't negotiate. It's going to burn your ass. It's all up here. Excited to talk to Dave about that today. So Dave comes from the school of Tony Robbins. There's a name to hook you. So there you go, right? But this is not about Tony Robbins. This is about Dave Albin today. But I'm the kind of guy, and you guys know me, right? I'm the guy who likes to discover the moment behind the moment behind the moment. So while the world was fascinated on Tony Robbins, there's some guy behind the scenes named Dave Albin, figuring shit out, figuring his own stuff out, walking across the coals, walking across the fire. And then one day Tony comes, taps on his shoulder and says, hey, Dave. Dave's like, yeah, Tony? Probably just like that. He's like, yeah, Tony? Or he's like, what's up, Tony? He's like, hey, you want to take over firewalking for me? Imagine that. One of the world's greatest, speakers, influencers, motivators, inspiring human beings comes and taps on your shoulder and says, you want to take this over from me? I don't know about you, but that would be a vote of confidence. That would put me into motion. So today we're going to hang out with Dave Albin coming up here in a few seconds. He's sitting in the green room. We haven't had a chance to chat. I can see him sitting over there. He's like, who's this guy? Who's this guy talking over there, yapping away with his black hat? Oh, yeah, I'm doing my accessibility description right now, my team. So I got a black hat. I got a red logo on it. I got a gray vest, black shirt, black pants. I'm all in black. I'm like, I am black today. Johnny Cash. There we go. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time monologuing today. I got a lot of energy. I'm excited. Oh, just to remind you guys, I'm that humble Canadian, right? Yeah, people are like, hey, Keith, you're too humble. We don't know nothing about you. All right, so the humble Canadian. I was fortunate that I started a social media company from nothing, bootstrapped it, sold it for 50 million. There you go. Boom, out of the way. Okay, that's who I am. Now, let's talk about Dave Albin. But before we do that, I want to ask you to take 5 minutes and 39 seconds out of your day and pay attention to a video that I'm going to run over on YouTube, introducing you to the extraordinary Dave Albin. Let's watch it.
You can't cut a deal with the fire. You're not going to negotiate with it, right? Fire's going to teach you the lesson. It's the first day of summer. So I sit down at the table and my mom's here. So I grew up with, and my dad that adopted me, Bob, he had sworn off alcohol at 5 years old. Very shortly, a couple days after they told me that I went from having the perfect childhood. And so I'm watching this wonderful man turn into this horrible human. And I'm like, what is this? Poured it into a cup, whole body. And along that road, I was drinking and, we tried marijuana and, next thing I know, I was doing cocaine. I was doing heroin, barbiturates. Next thing I do, I eat. So it all just accumulated. And I finally got to that one day. I knew that if I put a bullet, that the pain would stop. I made a phone call called alcohol. I got to a month. They gave me a little chip, a little medallion that said 30, and they gave me one. So along the way, during the recovery part of it, I had insomnia. Sure enough, I'm up late one night, and there he is, Tony Robbins, doing his thing, man. And I honestly, when I was listening to him, I was like, what a jerk. I can't stand this guy. He said something about pain and pleasure, and I'm in a lot of watch. 7 years later, freaking Tony Robbins is coming to town. There was 3,000 people, 3,500 people event. And when you go out there, Tony's got everybody chanting, yes, yes. And they're walking out there chanting, and I'm going, no, we ain't doing this. And next thing you know, he goes, squeeze your fist and say yes, yes. And he went, stronger. And I went, yes. And then he got right in my face, and he goes, stronger. And I throw my hands in the air, yes. And he goes, go, go, go. And I took off. So We didn't burn ours. I have no idea. Don't ask me about the science. Don't ask me. I don't know. I have no clue. I didn't burn. Well, if I can walk on coals that are 1,000 degrees and not burn myself, what else can I? The relationship that I had with Tony stemmed 19 plus years. He opened up the door and he saw me and he had a big smile on it. He came up and he kind of slapped me on the face like that. And then he bent down. And it was at that moment that I knew that our relationship had gone. And then in 2003, Tony set me down. I'd like you to take over all. I believe the two most important times, the moment they were born, Pat, you know, if you help other people get what they want, universal. So, you know, in my seminars, I always ask my audience, why don't people get what they want? And the answer is, story very pretty scary. Fear is there to guide you. Just don't let it become your jail. And that's
Fear is there to guide you. Just don't let it become your jail. Dave Albin. Welcome to the Business Athlete Performance Lab. I am full of immense gratitude to have you here today. I was figuring out what my monologue was this morning, and then you know what? I watched the video and I looked in the mirror and I said, fuck it. That's the monologue. Thank you for being here today with me, my friend. And thank you for sharing that powerful 5-minute story. I'm a storyteller. I love hearing stories. I love hearing behind the scene, and then behind the scene. And the way you started that 5-minute journey, that summer, sitting down with your parents, were not your parents. Dave Albin. Welcome.
Thanks, Keith. Thanks for having me, man. You know, I didn't know you were going to show that.
Neither did I until I
neither did you, right? Like, what?
Watching, I'm like, how did I not show that? Like, how do we not bring that to life? Because I usually bring a lot of energy, a lot of music, and I'm like, okay, I got to figure something out. And I called an audible this morning, Dave.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. That was a beautifully call. It was a great call, and thanks for showing it. And you know, kudos to Alex Burnfield, who did that. She was a student, man. She was a student at NC State. She's awesome. She's so she was majoring in film and production and documentary, right? So her professor said to the entire class, go out into the state of North Carolina and find somebody interesting and do a documentary. And
lo and behold, she found you.
She found me. She was
so my format here is what we're doing right now. Just having a wonderful conversation with one cool guy and some nerd behind the microphone over here. So let's hear your story. Yeah. So where do we start?
Yeah. Where do you want to start, man? You start, you know, Dad used to say, want to start at the beginning.
Let's do it, pal. Let's start right at the beginning. So for those that didn't tune at the beginning, you know, Dave Albin sat down in a summer. How old were you when that summer started?
I was 11.
And Dave's parents sat with him in the kitchen and said to him, we're not your parents.
Nope. Which is like, what? Oh, cool. It's like taking somebody out and saying, looking at the sky and go, it's not blue. It looks pretty blue to me. That's for sure. And so, it was the first day, summer. And, you know, I would back up a little further. 2 months before I was born, Keith, my biological father, we don't know what happened. We just know that he hurt his head. 1953, I believe it happened to him. They put a plate in his head to save his life, and it ended up taking his life. A lot of pain associated with it. He used to complain to Mom all the time how bad it hurt. 2 months before I'm born, he turns to Mom and says, I'm going to the grocery. We never saw or heard from him again. So Mom, there she is. She's already got 2 boys. So I'm born to a single mom. Now there's 3 of us. And we're living with my grandmother, her mother, and another cousin. There's 6 of us living in a 1-bedroom apartment in Hollywood, California. And Mom gave it her all, man. She tried. She was working up the street at the Roosevelt Hotel. She was a server. She was pulling as many shifts as she could get her hands on. It wasn't enough. It just wasn't. You know, and Mom came from my mom that raised me and my biological, you know, they came from the greatest generation that's ever walked this planet. They came from the Great Depression. They went through World War II. What a lot of people don't realize is during World War II, when all the men were out fighting the Nazis and defending against the Japanese, the women stayed home and did everything. I mean, you know, my mom was known as Rosie the Riveter. She worked for McDonnell Douglas. She built airplanes. So, you know, that's the generation that we're dealing with. So, you know, a baby boomer, we know some stuff because of our parents. And so, you know, anyway, it wasn't enough for her to take care of us, all 6 of us. And she went to her older sister, Pat, and she said, hey, I can't feed David. Will you adopt? And Bob and Pat said, yeah, absolutely. So they yanked me from Hollywood in that 1-bedroom apartment and took me to Long Beach. And I was in a really nice house on east side of Long Beach. My dad was highly decorated military. He had a great job. He was an officer. We had food on the table. We had a nice house. We went camping. It was Little House on the Prairie until that day. And, you know, I get asked, why did they do that? Why did they tell you when you were so young at 11? And I'm like, I don't know. They just did. Now, my dad's working in the Pentagon during during this, right? Kennedy had just been assassinated in November of 63. The Bay of Pigs going on, the missiles in Cuba, all that was going down with the Russia. And so Dad knew a lot, and he was on edge all the time. And so after they adopted me at 5, when they told me that day, when I was 11 years old, shortly after that, they both started drinking. And they swore off alcohol when they adopted. And man, it got ugly real fast. And so one day they went to the grocery store. Back in the 60s, you could leave your kids home. You leave 11-year-old kid at home. So what? Who cares, right? Call the neighbor across the street and say, hey, Joanne, Bob and I are going to the grocery store. David's here if he needs anything. Can he come knock on your door? Yeah, of course. Mm-hmm. Yeah, tell him to come over now. I'll fix him a fried bologna sandwich, with mustard. And so when they left, that was it for me, because I saw these two amazing people pour this stuff in their body and they completely transformed. And I don't know what it is. I have no idea what this stuff is, but I wanted to know. And so when they left, I went to the cabinet, opened it up because they were hiding it in plain sight. And I poured about a half a coffee cup, Keith, in that cup, and bam, down it went. Nasty ass smell and all. And I never had a chance ever. I believe I was an alcoholic on the spot because it was like pouring rocket fuel in me. It was, it was just exhilarating what it made you feel like, it was unbelievable. And then I was 11. And I was 11. So I started chasing it right there. It just, boom, it escalated from there, the snowball effect right there. And by the time I was a junior in high school, they called me in shortly after the year started and said, Albin, you're out. You're a danger to our school. Well, okay, I am. I can't deny that. So, and you know what, Keith, I didn't give a rat's ass. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like, anything I was learning in high school was going to make me a living, right? There was a song back then by Paul Simon. And if I remember the lyric right, it was, when I think back to all the crap I learned in high school, it's a wonder I can think it all. So that was like my freaking theme song, right? But you know what, bro? I was already an entrepreneur long before I got to my junior year, because I started entrepreneurship at a young age, 10 and 11. My first job was a paper route. Well, that's serious, man. You're in business for yourself 7 days a week as a kid, right? You got to go get your papers. You got to fold them. You got to put them in your duffel bags. You got to put them on the back of your bike. Then you got to go ride your route and deliver Monday through Sunday. And you got to go collect the money. You got to go knock on doors when new people would move in. So, I mean, you're a full-blown business person. I also lived across the street from a golf course. And here's what I learned about golfers at a young age. They suck. Right? They suck. 90% of the golfers shoot over 100. Well, okay, I learned that. And so what I would do is I'd take my Stingray bike, man, and I'd go over there and I'd ride the perimeter. And guess what I'd find? Little white things worth money. Mm-hmm. And I'd bring them home. I'd clean them all up. They were all muddy and such. I went back to the golf course, and the actual boxes that they come in, they would throw them out at the pro shop, right? So I'd go get them, and I'd display my balls in that case, and I'd ride my bike back over to the golf course and go into the parking lot. You know what I did with them. And so, and then also Mom, she grew flowers in the backyard. Beautiful. She was, she had a green thumb. Yeah, she came from that era back in the days when she was my age. You got up every day in the morning when the sun come up and you started working. You farmed. You sewed your own clothes. I mean, you worked your ass off daily. So Mom had a green thumb. So she would grow beautiful flowers. She'd arrange them for me because she had a great eye for color. And then when she would prepare them, she did something pretty phenomenal. Never forgot it to this day. She would cut the flower at an angle, not at the bottom, but at an angle. And that would open up the surface area so more water would get into the flower and last longer, right? But I think we may have there he is. There he is. We back?
Yeah, there you go, pal. There you go. Yeah,
cool. So, and then after, she would put them in a bucket and arrange them for me to go sell. She'd pour some 7-Up into the bucket. So I guess it's the sugar that gets into the flour, but my flowers would outlast the local florist 3-1. There I am, man. And I'll tell you what I learned early on. Men want to negotiate the hell out of you. Women never negotiate, ever. They saw this cute little kid on the street corner. They come up, they pay my 50 cents. And thank you. And you're a guy that we'll see you next week. They were wonderful.
So,
yeah.
There you go. Yeah, cool. Okay, gotcha. You broke up that last part. So men want to negotiate the hell out of you.
Yeah, and women would not. They just pay the price every time.
No, we're having a little bit of a technical issue here with Dave Albin here. So just so our viewer knows, so we are in we're here in Canada, Dave's there in the US, and sometimes I think the internet gets stuck going across the border. So sometimes when the internet gets stuck going across the border, I sometimes have a little bit of like stutters. So don't blame that on the guest audience. That's actually the American-Canadian border happening there. So anyways, Dave, you were saying.
So I would go out there and sell those flowers on the street corner. And, and so here's what I learned, Keith, at a very, very, very young age.
Yeah.
There's money out there. Go get it.
Yes, isn't there though? Is there not
Yeah.
though? So let's continue your journey. So you become so I don't want to make light of this, but I also want to have an enlightening conversation. At 11, you become an alcoholic and you're going through your journey of life.
Yeah.
Mom and dad are alcoholics. Dave's an alcoholic. I can't imagine that house is like. You're figuring shit out as you become a teenager. When does the light go on when you said to yourself, this is enough?
Well, that day I was in my third marriage. I was married to a woman who had 3 kids. She was a bartender. Go figure. And that was it, man. June 8th, 1988. I woke up that morning, Keith, and I said, that's it. We're done. I'm out. I'm not doing this anymore.
Just like that.
Just like that quick. And, I'm in so much physical and emotional pain in that moment that I just want it to stop. And I don't care how it stops. I could care less. I'm ready to take my own life. I loaded the pistol. I'm ready. And I don't care. I just don't, right? I'm not worried, they're heaven or hell or nah. However, what dawned on me in the moment was, you pull that trigger, those 3 kids upstairs and their mom that you love, you're going to ruin their life.
Yes.
Because, when someone they take their own life, they kill everybody around them.
Yes.
We don't want to talk about that, right? Because in that moment, we're too self-centered. Sorry, but we are. And I get it. I was there. I lived. So I'm like, okay, so you can't do that. So what are you going to do? And the next thought came was call Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, what's interesting about that was I didn't even know who the hell AA was. I didn't know anybody in AA. I'd never been to AA. What's AA? But there's the thought. That's what I call a divine moment for me. So I did. I called them. And I got this really wonderful woman on the phone. And over the years, I've nicknamed her Madge. And the reason is because she talked like this. She probably smoked 2 packs of Pall Mall non-filters a day. But man, she was a badass, Keith. She was the gatekeeper. She would interview you. And if she thought you would go, she'd send somebody to pick you up and take you to an AA meeting. And I basically begged. I was in really bad shape. I needed help and I knew it. And she did. She sent a guy come get me. His name's Lauren. Took me to my first AA meeting. Went to 4 meetings in my first day. 12:30, 4:30, 6:30, 8:30. At that meeting, they took a big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and all the men signed. It was an all men's group. And they wrote in there on the inside front cover, it said, before you take that first drink, call one of us. And they put their name and their phone number and sent me home. And they also sent me home to one of these. And what I'm holding up for those that are just listening is a medallion that you get in AA when you show up. It's called a 24-hour chip. And as the documentary said, there, as Alex captured, a day turned into a month turned into 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and 1 year. And they gave me a chip for every one of those. And then, last year here in 2023, I picked up a chip for 35 years. And I'll add, if I don't drink and I don't die between now and June 8th of 2024, I'll have 36 years. And that's when the magic happened, man. Once I got to AA and I realized for the first time that I could go a day at a time and not drink, and saw my life starting to change and evolve, the personal development industry showed up at the same time. And it did because I had insomnia. I was up late all the time. And, I'm up late one night and there he is. There's Tony,
There he is.
Man, and, he owned the airways back then. And, so he was on every channel just about late at night. And I was intrigued. I didn't like him. I thought he was a pompous asshole, to be honest with you. But what he said, 2 things that got me. One, he said, we'll do more to avoid pain than we will to gain pleasure. And I was like, whoa, okay, well, that relates. Because my drinking and drugging was, it was around both of those. I was either trying to get some pleasure in my life or run from pain. And then he said, how humans make decisions is one of 2 things. They make those decisions. They're inspired by either inspiration or desperation. And I went, whoa, okay. Talking to me, are you, Tony? And I was desperate, man. So I bought his program. It was Personal Power. It was a 30-day program. They sent it to me. It came in a big old box. And it came on these little white things called cassette tapes, right?
I had one.
They're like, what are those? Your audience is like, what? Who? Cassette tapes? What's that? Go to the Smithsonian. They're there. They're right next to reel-to-reel and 8-track tapes. Right? So I did it, man. I plugged them in. I did what the man taught me to do, and it worked. Well, I loaned that tape program to a buddy of mine. In fact, my buddy Dan the Butcher, I called him Dan the Butcher because his name was Capobianco, and I could never pronounce it. And so he's talking to me one day. In fact, I just lost Dan here about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I am too. He was
I'm sorry.
What a peach of a guy. So bottom line was, in my discussions, he's like, you seem really up, man. What's going on? I go, I've been listening to this guy named Tony Robbins. Dan goes, hey, I know who Tony Robbins is. I bought his book. He goes, but I never read it. I was like, okay, well, how often does that show up in your life? Right? So anyway, I loaned me my tape program, cut to the chase. 7 years later, right? This was all going down in 88 and 89. 7 years later, in 1995, Dan calls me on the phone. He goes, hey, man, Tony, did you know Tony Robbins is coming to town? I'm like, no, I had no idea. He goes, dude, come on. You got to go with me. You got me into this, man. Please go with me. And I go, dude, I'll go. He goes, great. I'll call you back. He comes back an hour later, calls me, goes, all right, done deal. We pick up the tickets at will call. And here's what they tell us to do. Number one, bring snacks. You're going to spend a lot of time in the room. And I'm laughing, man, because anybody that's been to a Robbins event knows you're going to spend a lot of time in the room. They said, drink a lot of water, stay hydrated, bring a good attitude, and be ready to play full out. Well, I said, so Dan, how much was the ticket? He said $695 in 1995, right? So, what's that worth today? Right? That's like 1.3 million, I think, something like that, right? And so he's getting ready to hang up the phone, right, Keith? And all of a sudden he goes, oh, wait. I forgot to tell you, man, I got almost left out the best part. We're going to be doing a firewalk. And I thought immediately, my head said, oh, hell no. Ain't going to happen. Never in a million years am I going to do that. And you know what's interesting about that? I don't know what a firewalk is. What does that mean? I have no idea. I've never even heard the term firewalk. But take fire and walk and put them in the same sentence. I'm like, nope, not doing it. But I lie to my buddy, right? Because I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, Dan. Sure, we'll do the firewalk. Yeah, sounds interesting. All right, bro, I'll see you then. Well, the big day comes. We get there. We're in a big arena, and we got 3,500 people. And Tony took the stage at 2:00 in the afternoon. Next thing we know, it's after midnight, right? Bring snacks or you'll starve to death? No kidding. And we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, Tony goes, take your shoes off. And I'm like, oh, no. I know where you're going with that, pal. You're not tricking me. Well, I got a problem. 3,500 people. Guess what they're doing?
Taking their shoes off.
Taking their damn shoes off. What's wrong with you people? Are you out of your mind? Are you falling for that? Are you that stupid? Well, my buddy's sat next to me and he's taking his shoes off. So what I got to do? Because I'm not doing it. So my exit strategy is when I go out there, 3,500 people, I'll lose Dan and I'll go hide in the back. No one's going to know. Well, except for me. But Tony's not done with you yet. After you take your shoes off and you start walking out into this giant parking lot where you firewalk 3,500 people, he gets you to start clapping and chanting on your way out. So it's like, yes, times 3,500 people. Pretty intense. And it gets worse. When you get out there, he's got African drummer. Dun, 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 dun. And you got to be kidding me. What a dog and pony. So logistically, how do you firewalk 3,500 people? Well, you start by building a big ass fire around 2:00 in the afternoon. And you build a pit 35 feet wide, 70 feet long, and you add cord after cord after cord of hardwood to it all day long. And after it burns all day, it renders. And you've got a giant, beautiful pile of blue coal. Well, you take wheelbarrows over to that pit, you load the coals in a wheelbarrow, you bring the wheelbarrow back in between 2 lanes of sod, of grass, call it a fire lane. 3 feet wide, 18 feet long. You just take a flathead shovel and you sprinkle those bad boys over the top of that sod and that grass, and that's what you walk on. Well, as I said, I'm having none of it. I literally ditched my buddy. I'm in the back. I think I got it all figured out. Well, Tony Robbins knows that firewalking is probably the single most life-changing experience on earth. It's been around for over 1,000 years and used by cultures all over this planet. So he knows it's a paradigm shift. He knows it's life-changing. He also knows there's people like me. So what's he do? He trains people to come find you. So you think you got it all figured out, right? Nah, not so much. I'm back there minding my own beeswax, and here comes this guy. And he makes a beeline for me. He makes eye contact. Won't take his eyes off. Gets 20 feet from me, and he looks at me, and he goes, like a dog is. He's a funny noise, how they tilt their head, right? He goes, hey, man, are you okay? And when we're not okay, what do? We lie, right? Yeah, I'm fine. All good here, man. Nothing to see. Move along. I'm good. And he says, hey, man, are you going to walk tonight? Without missing a beat, man. And I'm like, absolutely not. I'm thinking, why do you think that? Why the hell do you think I'm hiding out in the back, man? What's wrong with you? And by the way, this guy changed my life. And I don't know who it is to this day. I never found out.
Of course.
Right? So after I give him a hard no, he goes, hey, man, that's cool. no problem. We don't want you to do anything you don't want to do. And I went, oh, okay. I like this guy. He's going to get me the hell out of here. No, he's not. Trick. Because the next question he asked me was, wouldn't you at least like to watch? And I'm like, well, yeah, sure. Why not? You know, nothing to lose there. Let's go watch these people burn their feet off. Great. Yeah, let's do that. He said, hey man, well, you're not going to be able to see anything from way back here. I'm 100 yards away. I can't see anything, Keith. I got 300 to 500 people standing in front of me. I got nothing to see. I can hear it, right? They're chanting, they're clapping, the drums are going, and they're already firewalking, and they're celebrating. So every time they get to the end of the lane, they're jumping up and down and clapping their hands and screaming like you wouldn't believe. And so I'm like, okay, I took the bait. Boom, right? I got in line, and I'm just kind of walking along. And all of a sudden, another stranger comes up to me, and he whispers in my ear, and he says, he knows when you're ready. When he says go, you go. And then this guy just went pew and disappeared into the night. I'm like, what? What do you mean he knows when you're ready? Go when he says go, right? It's like, you got to be kidding me. So I'm walking along and I can't see in front of me. I still got 1,000 people in front of me, but I can see at an angle. I can see this way, right? Looking back over this other way. And Keith, they're doing it. They are walking on fire, which is my brain's going, your people are nuts, man. There's something wrong with you. We're mammals, man. We're supposed to run from fire, not walk on it. And so I'm mesmerized, right? I can't take my eyes off it. I'm just kind of staring at these people walking, and I'm not paying attention to what's going on in front of me. And the next thing I know, boom, guess where I am? It worked. So now I'm standing there. I'm in that fire lane, and I'm looking down, and those coals that are on that fire lane, again, that lane's 3 feet wide, 18 feet long, and those coals are bright red. It's not a question if they're hot. And the wheelbarrow's right there. So you can feel the heat coming off this thing, right? Well, there's a trainer standing there. As I'm staring into the abyss, the trainer goes, eyes up. Well, okay, yeah, that's right. Get your eyes up. Well, when I'm training with Tony for an hour, guess what he trains you to do? Keep your eyes up. Don't stare at what you fear, right? Look to the celebration end, right? We hear it all the time. Everything we've ever wanted in life is sitting right over there on the other side of your comfort zone, right? Mm-hmm. And that was true in that moment. So about that time, the trainer goes, squeeze your fist and say yes. And I went, yes. And he went, stronger. And I went, yes. He could tell, man, I was not in a peak state. I was close, but I was still leaving some on the table. And he knew it. So he screamed at me, got in my face and screamed at me, stronger. And I threw my hands in the air, fight or flight, screamed as loud as I could. And the trainer goes, go, go, go. Pooh. I took off. Right? Remember the guy? He knows when you're ready. When he says go, you go. I went. Well,
yeah, no choice.
Yeah, right. You talk about peer pressure, right?
Yeah.
So here's the first thing I learned about Firewalk. When you take the first step, you'll take the second, third, fourth, and fifth. I promise you, dude. So Tony's, we staged 2 people at the end to catch you, right? And they're like, stop, wipe your feet and celebrate. And I'm wiping my feet and I'm celebrating. And all of a sudden it dawns on me, I burnt myself really bad. And I look at my my foot and it's dirty, but there's no burns.
It's just in your head.
It's just in my head. I looked at my other foot. Nope. So there I am jumping up and down. I just walked on coals that were 1,000 degrees. And the interesting part is I didn't have a clue how I did it, right? We've all done, right? You do something really cool, but you don't really know how you did it. But you take credit for it, don't? Like, that's right. That's me. This kid just walked on fire, baby. Well, in that moment, it's so exhilarating. You think you can do or accomplish anything in that moment. Because I'm like, all right, people, let's get on the bus. Let's go climb Everest. Said in your opening, right? In your intro. And so, but I'll tell you where it gets really, really interesting the next day. Right. This is a 4-day event. It's called UPW, Unleash the Power Within, the Firewalk Experience. We do the Firewalk on day 1 that night. Now we're into day 2. And now 3,500 people are standing in the foyer getting ready to go into the venue. And I've never in my life, Keith, seen anything like this in my life. Never have seen anything like it other than a Tony Robbins seminar. Because that next morning, we drank the Kool-Aid, no doubt about it, but we did it collectively. So we all had that extreme experience. And so there was a camaraderie already built into us the next morning because people were hugging and they're laughing and they're crying. It's intense and people are getting along the way we should get along. And so that connectivity is what I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wow, this is so beautiful to be hanging out with these people that we did something so extraordinary. Well, later in the event, I met one of Tony's trainers and a guy by the name Ted Macy, sweet guy, really good dude. His wife, Mary, too, also a trainer. I'm talking to Ted, I'm talking to one of Tony's trainers, right? I'm feeling it, right? And so I'm like, hey man, you get to come be in this environment on a regular basis, don't you? And he says, absolutely. And he goes, you need to get in here too, if you can. And he goes, you see those people standing over there with those black shirts? I'm like, yeah.
He goes, dude, those are volunteer. They're just like you. They came to an event and they called Robbins Research and they filled out an application and they got approved. So do that. When you go home, call them. Who knows what will happen? I did. 9 weeks after I filled that application out, almost to the day, I got a letter in the mail and it said, Dave Albin, congratulations. You've been selected to crew with the Anthony Robbins. Color my ass hat. There I am. And it just went from there. So when you fill out the application, obviously you put a bunch of information in there. Well, I've got a military background. I've got a security background. And so what happened is that they decided to put me on the security team to help take care of Tony Celebrity. And then because I lived on a farm at the time and I knew what a log splitter was and how to use a hatchet and what kindling is, they also put me on the fire building. And then shortly after I did that, right, I got offered a subcontracting position to be the fire captain, the assistant. Mm-hmm. So that was all going down in 95, 96. 2003 comes along, as you mentioned earlier. Tony said, Albin, I'd like you to have you as my captain. Tony, I homeschool my kids. Great. Let's pay to have them go with it. And so my kids at 6 and 9 years old got to go on the road with their dad and their mom with Tony Robbins. In fact, their first event was Sydney, Australia.
Yeah.
So that happened in 2003 and 2005. We went to London. We set the world record. We firewalked 12,300 people.
I remember that.
Right.
Yeah. There's publicity around that event.
Yeah. It was huge.
Yeah.
And now I want to disclose to your audience, I want to be crystal clear about something. Guinness was not there. Guinness Book was not there. So it wasn't documented. But here's what I can tell you. That was the biggest firewalk in the world ever. And the only thing that ever comes anything close to that is another Tony Robbins seminar. So that happened in 05. 2014, let me move this forward. I'm driving down the road and my phone rings and it's Google. And they want to know if I'm the Dave Albin that does the Tony Robbins firewalks. Yeah, what can I do for you? Well, if you're not under any contractual obligation or non-compete, we'd like to talk to you about hiring. I'm like, oh, well, homeboy's a free agent. What's going on? Well, we have 148 executives and they're graduating from a very intense curriculum. And we want to create a paradigm shift. And we know the firewalk experience is exactly what it does because we want to anchor it in. We want to ignite. We want to bring this 148 people together, just like I did the day after the firewalk. But Google already knows, right? And so what happened, I had to convert it to a glass walk. And the reason I don't do firewalks during the day.
Yeah, I just had to convert it from a firewalk to a glass walk.
Well, it's funny, man. So here's what happened. They said, hey, we want to do this after lunch. And I go, guys, we can't do it during the day. It's a safety issue. I won't put my name on it. Not going to happen. I tell you what, we could do if you want to do it in the middle of the day.
How come? What's the safety issue, Dave?
Because I got to be able to see the coals, man. You know, when there's daylight, if something pops out or something and somebody else can walk, you know what I mean? There's just too many things that can go wrong. Because I can regulate the temperature of the coals with a shovel. All I have to do is take that shovel and go bam. And every time I hit those coals with that shovel, it reduces the temperature. It cools it down. So I have to have that. I can't see what's going on. And I said, we could do a glass walk. And they're like, what? You mean walk on broken glass? Yep. Google's like, ooh, tell us about that. So I did. And they went for it. They were really cool about it too. They were like, even before, as I was setting it up, they said, hey, listen, before we bring you on stage while you're in the green room, can we show a video? And I said, what video? And they said, there's a scene in Die Hard where Bruce Willis has to run across the broken glass. We'd like to show that. I'm like, you're my kind of people, man. Yeah, sure. And they said, and then one other thing, when we bring you on stage, can we play that Annie Lennox song, Walking on Glass?
Yeah,
man. So they did. So I ended up doing 2 gigs for Google. Well, while I was there, I met one of the executives, and she basically told me, look, I don't know if you realize it or not, but corporate America will eat you alive because you create an experience is exactly what they need, a paradigm shift. To bring people together. So, and you're at the top of your game, man. So you may want to think about starting your own company. And so I'm like, okay, you're right. And so Firewalk Productions was born in 2014, shortly after Google. And pun intended, we've been going hot and heavy ever since.
No kidding. Well, congratulations. You have your water. I got a couple things I got to say. What an awesome story. So first of all, are you and Tony on good terms, bad terms?
Good terms.
Oh, good. Awesome. So he said, do your thing. And now you're doing your thing. And he's
totally cool. Yeah. I sat down and talked with him in the green room. I said, hey, Tone, love you. But Google just hired me. And he goes, you're leaving, aren't you? And I said, it's my time. You're good, dude. There's 4 guys right here, right now. There's 4 people that can take over my job. They're all cross-trained. You don't need me anymore. I'm leaving you in good hands. And he basically at the end said, hey, just, man, with great wisdom comes great responsibility, man. Make us proud.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So I have my own paradigm shift with climbing mountains. So in my journey of life, To me, the big shift for me is when I went through my journey, through my experiences in life, climbing mountains was the way that I was able to shift my paradigms, climbing Kilimanjaro and so forth. So I can't fully appreciate walking on glass or fire. And I want to get back to that in a second, but I like the metaphor of the paradigm shift. What I really like though, Dave, is rewinding the story somewhat. I'm a big fan of accountability. We call ourselves the accountability company here in the lab. 70% of people that state their goal publicly achieve their goal. There's magic in that. I'm going to do something, and 70% of the time you're going to achieve it. It's very similar to Alcoholics Anonymous, isn't it? Is that when you come in there and state that I want help publicly, high level of accountability starts to happen, doesn't it, Dave Albin?
You 100%, you nailed it. Yeah. And of course, the other side of it too is that, you get an opportunity to help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. So the beauty about AA is you got the 12 steps, right?
Yeah.
They show you how to put your life back together. You got the 12 traditions, and that way you know how to navigate within the group. But in the middle, man, that's where the sweet spot is, because the preamble says, when anyone anywhere reaches out, I want the hand of AA to be there. And for that, I'm responsible. I took that to heart. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'm responsible. So that really resonated with me. And then when the personal development industry showed up, then now here all of a sudden I'm this guy that can come in and create this unbelievable experience and change people's lives forever.
Well, that's what I like about a Firewalk experience, is that there is that level of public accountability.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like you're standing in front of the fire lane, you're going, and you're putting yourself out there, and you're more than likely going to achieve your goal. Boom, 100% success rate. You know what I mean by that? Like there's no ambiguity happening there.
Yeah. I mean, because again, once you're there, right? Because here's what we know. The fears we don't overcome become our limits, right? Mm-hmm. And so fear, what does it mean to you? Like up until that point in my life, Keith, it was like, forget everything and run, right? Now it took on face everything and run. Mm-hmm. So fear completely, the dynamic of fear, as I said in my documentary, fear is here to guide you. Just don't let it become your jailer. Mm-hmm. So that really meant a lot to me. And then you said accountability. And that's what's interesting is that, corporate America has been really good. They come in, they hire me, they tell me what's going on. Maybe there's dissension. Maybe they're launching a new product, whatever. All they have to do is tell me what's going on. And then I'll design the Firewalk around whatever's happening.
Okay.
Right. So I've done two things. One, I developed an academy so now people can come spend 5 days with me up here in the Appalachian Mountains in a full intensive, and I show them and train them how to do all that so they can go back to their respective companies or their communities. They may be an entrepreneur, business owner, trainer, coach, whatever, and then they can go do their own Firewalks along with all the other experiences that we trained them on, which is great. We graduated 11 last October. So I only do it once a year in October.
The other one event per year.
That's all I wanted. I'm just sorry, man. I'm lazy. It's a lot of work. And, with everything else that I got going on and grandkids and family, bro, I'm going to be 70 this year.
Come on.
And it's not that I'm slowing down. I'm not saying that. There's other things that are taking on a priority. And that's actually just happened. It's an accountability thing. If you look at my website, it says, stop looking for heroes and be one.
Good for you.
Well, I had a chance to do that recently on a podcast because of a host like you. So we recorded, right? And we were talking sidebar after the recording. And Natalie asked me, she said, hey, Dave, have you ever done a Firewalk for veterans? And I said, you mean specifically? And she said, yeah. And I go, no, why? And she goes, dude, we got 200 vets. And this is a life-changing paradigm shift experience.
Yeah, and she's thinking, why not, Dave? And you're like,
well, yeah, exactly. But, and I've never really had the opportunity until now. Well, the number that's floating around out there is 22 a day are taking their life. Well, guess what? That's not true. That's bullshit. 100%. That's only if they leave a note. Well over half of them are.
Oh my God.
So we have over 40 men and women a day that are taking their own life. Well, okay, I can't run from that. I'm a vet. My dad was highly decorated. I grew up during Vietnam. Lost friends and family, to Vietnam. So I'm like, Dave, hello.
Yeah.
Everything you've ever done in your life has prepared you for this. So I went to bed that night and I woke up in the middle of the night and it came Operation Do No Harm.
Well, and
right? Yeah.
If I can add to that, David. So you said at the beginning of the conversation here, and I have to call you on this, but the more you give to others, the more you're going to get back.
Okay, so I'm being a little self-centered,
right? So when that host says to you, "Hey, Dave, here's the veterans," I can only imagine that epiphany that night was right. The more I give to them, the better it is for everybody, right? Was it something like that in your head? The light goes off.
and then it got better because I'm like, okay, that's veteran. So now I've got 4 categories.
Yeah.
I've got vets, first responders, high suicide rate there,
Mhm.
single mothers. I'm born to a single mom.
Mhm.
And then my weakness has always been the kids. So kids that have been abused and neglected, give them to me. They're 8 years old, give them to me. We'll do the board break. I'll do a martial arts thing with them. They'll break the board. We'll firewalk them. They'll throw the board into the fire. I can transform a kid's life so fast. Same thing with the vets and first responders. So now what's happened is that I'm going out to corporate America and saying, hey guys, you want to put your brand out in front of saving veterans or first responders or moms or kids' life? Great. Write a check to my nonprofit and write it off. And then you hire me to come into your city and we'll make you look really, really good by saving these men and women's lives. And so that just happened. That's just transpired. So we actually have our first event. It's already scheduled. It's going to be in Modesto, California. And it's going to be April. We changed it. Yeah, April 6th. We changed it from the 13th because we got a better venue for the whole thing. So I've been inviting corporate America. I'm inviting CEOs to come and say, look, you want to be part of this? You want to write, you got to write money off anyway, right? So they donate money all the time for sponsorship. Come be part of a very, very noble cause. And so I'm inviting them, come to Modesto, come as my guest, be a VIP and watch what I do. And then if you want to get involved, you can tell me what level that you want to get involved.
I'm speechless because I'm emboldened by how passionate you are for changing people's lives. Like, it's clear in your voice. It's clear in the way you speak. It's clear you don't pause when you're like, hey, there's an 8-year-old kid needs help, bring him to me. Like, and when I hear your story, starting as an 11-year-old child whose life has had to change along the way, it's as if you were the right person on the planet for this role.
I believe the 2 most important times in someone's life, Keith, is the moment they're born
and
the moment they figure out why. It's taken me a while.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, because that also struck me when you found your purpose, like your absolute purpose. People go their whole lives though finding purpose, Dave Albin.
And if they're open to it though, it'll reveal itself. You're not here by chance. What's the chances of being born? 1 in 400 trillion. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's quit playing with this idea that we're not here to serve a greater good of some kind. And the more you lean into that, the more it transforms and the more it comes at you. I didn't know, that day when I filled out that application with Robbins that I'd get approved to go being a volunteer and then go boom, 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 Google. You know what I mean? It was just like one thing after another, after another, after another. But it started really in AA. That was the moment. I needed to clean up my life because I spent a great deal of time trying to screw it up. And so, again, like Tony said, man, with great wisdom comes great responsibility. And so now this new evolution of where I'm doing what's going on, all 4 of those categories need it really, really bad. So what's cool is like, I just had a company out of Indianapolis and they make playground and they make commercial playgrounds. And so when I told them about Operation Do No Harm, and the kids are like, so we can write a check, you'll come to Indianapolis and we can bring moms and kids? Yeah, absolutely. Now they're already hiring me to do an event for them. They're bringing in a bunch of their top distributors. So that's why I'm actually going there to do the event first. But now they, you know what I mean? So now there's kind of a double whammy. Yeah, hire me. I'll rock and roll your company. But then imagine what it's going to look like when you put your brand out in front of this, what the community is going to look at you like. It's going to be awesome, right? And think about your employees. How do you think that's going to affect their psyche? Look what we did. We just did an event for 300 first responders. Right. So it's just, they get the recognition, they get all the stuff. I get to go in and do what I do. And I don't need any, right? I'm the guy that gets to sit there and watch them one at a time in 4 seconds, completely transform their life.
That's got to be such an extremely empowering experience, watching people's lives change in front of you. Like, really, it's one thing to do it yourself, but then to watch others do it in front of you must be incredibly rewarding.
It's probably more addictive than crack. I mean, it is, man. It is.
Yeah.
I'm in love with it. Yeah. And then, what's cool is, a year later, you're walking through Walmart and all of a sudden, Dave Albin.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's what I met with. That's the kind of enthusiasm. Now, most people never remember me. Sure. They won't even remember what I said. You know what they will remember? The process that I walked them through and how that made them feel.
Yes. Yes.
Right? So
how they made them feel. Is that not just the key to every marketing customer experience, right? How you made somebody feel.
How you can make them feel. And if you can solve a problem at the level that I can, you're pretty popular.
Yeah. Hey, Dave, what's the commonality between walking on glass and walking on fire?
Well, there's such a rich history of firewalking, 1,000 years, right? If you go look at the Phoenicians or the people of India
Yes.
or the Polynesians, Hawaiians, Native American Indians, it's all over. So there's a culture there. That's a rite of passage. That's what it was used for. A graduation, a birth of a child, a girl stepping into womanhood, a boy stepping into manhood. So that whole dynamic. So you're out there looking down at the coals, they're bright red, it's the element, it's fire, right? So there's that dynamic. Glass scares the hell out of people. Most of my firewalking friends and community, they're good with doing a firewalk. They're like, oh, hell no, on the glass walk, I ain't doing that. I cut myself before. I know what that shit feels like. I ain't doing it, and it's physics. At the end of the day, it's just physics. It's all it is. So, and the other part of that is that we've always got it as a backup, because sometimes firewalking isn't always logistically possible. There's a lot going on. You've got venues and you've got parking lots and you've got fire marshals, and you got all the logistics of that. Whereas, when I set the world record in Paris in 2019, we glass walked over 1,500 people. The only thing I had to do was show up with 8 bags of glass, which I can tell you, taking it through customs is pretty interesting.
Yeah, where did you get that glass from?
We process it. We make it.
Make it yourself.
So we take wine bottles and alcohol bottles, because there's a real nice thickness to that glass.
Yes.
And again, we have a process of preparing.
And you grind it right down, or is it still shards, or is there a certain...
No, we don't. We get out the really nasty pieces, stuff like that. But make no mistake, it's glass.
Yes.
And when you step down on it, it starts crackling and popping.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's the real deal.
Yes. David, has society changed? No, let me rephrase the question. Is society changing where these ideas that you're presenting to the next generation of consumers still resonate?
100%. We got shredded in March of 2020.
Explain.
Everybody got divided, right? Divide and conquer, boys and girls. There it is. And so we all started arguing about masks, and we started arguing about vaccines and boosters. And, I hate Donald Trump. I love Donald Trump. I mean, shut up already. Because if that's going to infiltrate your company. It infiltrated every nook and cranny of this planet. So when it gets inside of a company, if you don't deal with that, if you don't fix that as a CEO, what's going to happen to your production? It's going to go up. It's going to go down. It's just not rocket science. So and that's another reason I started the academy, is because I can now train people with not only from the legacy standpoint, but these experiences work. Because what doesn't challenge you doesn't change you. We know that. Any Navy SEAL knows that. Anybody that's gone through intense training knows that.
But we would agree, though, that society has become a little softer with the way we do things, right? So there's...
yeah, right? And that's what's wrong, because do the things in life that are hard, Keith. You know this. Do the things that are hard, and life will become easier. Do the things that are easy, life becomes harder, right? So if you do things that are hard, when something hard comes along, it's not that big of a deal or as bad, right? So it's like, there's a craze now. I've been taking cold showers for a long time. I'm a Gary Brecka fan, and I like what he teaches, and that's part of his training. So my morning is, I'm 70 years old. Guess how many medications I'm on? 0. And I don't plan on taking it anytime soon. But I've gotten back to basics. That's what's happened in America. There's interesting statistics out there. If you take a dog and you never take them on a walk, and you get them out, so they've got sunlight and they're drinking fresh water, not municipal water, real water, like out of a well or a creek, get them back to that grounding, earthing, getting their paws on the planet. These kinds of things, it changes your whole life, and it's free, right? The other thing is that every morning for 45 minutes, when that sun comes up, that sunlight is super good for you. There's no bad rays. There's no UVA. And so I go stand with my upper torso and my face and my head and my chest, and I stand there when the sun comes up. And I do that for 9 minutes. And at the same time, I'm breathing diaphragmically. So I take 30 really intense breaths. And then when I get to the 30th, then I hold my breath until I can't hold it any longer. I exhale. I do that 3 times. So that's 90 breaths and holding my breath 3 times. That's while I'm doing my sun glaze. Then when I'm done there, I go to the other side of my cabin and I put my bare feet on this planet, on the grass. That's so important. And I don't have time to go into it now. Google it, research it. Earthing and grounding is extremely important for your mental health, for your physical health, all of it. And then when I'm done there, man, I come in I do my meditation, I do my sound therapy, and then, I off to the shower I go, man. And I take a really hot shower followed by a really cold shower. The water temperature coming into my cabin right now is 56 degrees. So when you turn that on and it hits you right here in the face, it takes your breath away.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
It does. Absolutely, it does. You got to get your breath, and that's the whole idea. Get your breathing under control. I do that for 3 minutes every morning, every shower.
Dave Albin,
yes.
out of respect for your time, it's clear that a couple storytellers here can keep this storytelling going on for hours and hours. I've thoroughly been inspired by your story. I'm thankful for you teaching us and my audience about accountability in a different way, in a real honest, raw human way, frankly, through your battle with alcoholism and your journey through Robbins, your journey through firewalking. Is there anything that I have missed or you want to make sure the audience knows about before we wrap up and I stick you in the green room before I walk you out?
Yeah. Let me share something with your audience that was shared with me by one of my mentors, and I never forgot it. And it's meant it took my whole life to get to the path that what I'm about to share got me on. And he looked at me and he goes, "Here's something you need to know, Dave." He said, "Every human on this planet has two lives. And the second one starts the moment you realize you have only one. Make it a master, because we're in control." Because I say all the time, man, the only reason you have something or don't have something is you made a story up about it. So create a good story. And if you want to change your life, your story. Change your story.
Dave Albin, thanks for joining me today live in the lab with Keith Bilous. I'm very grateful for you joining me. I'm going to stick in the green room. I'm going to say goodbye to the audience and come back and walk you out. All right?
You got it. I'm here.
Hang tight. There we go. What an inspiring conversation. There's nothing really any other way to color it, really. And I was frank when I said the beginning here. I did some research into Dave's story, watched the video, and was completely captivated by how he's arrived at where he is today. And as we talked about in this, in Dave's journey, accountability is a big part of it. And he was accountable. Once those lights went on, he's like, I got to change my life. Went called up Alcoholics Anonymous. And every single day since then, he's checked the boxes, checked the boxes, checked the boxes. And he's been accountable to himself every single day. Powerful, powerful, powerful. Hey, I'm Keith Bilous. I sit here. You know where I sit Monday to Monday. Wait a minute. Is it Monday to Sunday plus Monday? Is it Monday to Saturday plus 2? Nah, it's every freaking day. We're here every single day to hold you accountable. Our stories, our inspiring stuff, the music, the tone, the attitude, we bring it here for you guys to help you guys get to your next. Listen, you can get stuff delivered directly to your inbox inside.bapl.ai, inside.bapl.ai. And more importantly, here's the thing, you want an accountability partner? Call me. DM me on LinkedIn. If you're stuck and you're like, I need some help, well, I'm offering my assistance to you. And somebody's taking me up on that. Like, hey, I need some help. I want to be accountable to a goal, because we know this. If we state our goals publicly, we achieve them. But if you're too shy to state them publicly on the show, come tell me and I'll help you. If you really want to go there, let's come state them publicly and let's help you be accountable to your goals publicly. You will achieve them. Hey, I'm Keith. I'm live in the lab Monday to Monday here on X, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and I will see you guys. I'll see you tomorrow.